This is the 8th biennial convention of the Mississippi AFL-CIO in Jackson, Mississippi, to downtown Holiday Inn, Monday, March 22nd, 19...
Will the convention please come to order? For the invocation, we have the Reverend Wayne Burks, who is a state representative of Hinds County District 31C. He's also pastor of Bolton Baptist Church. Brother Burks.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, we invoke thy blessings upon this group here assembled ere they began the responsibilities of the day and of the week. Compel all of us, we pray, to be just and honest in our dealings. Let our motives be above suspicion. Let our word be our bond. Let us be kind in our criticism of others and slow to judge, knowing that one day we must all be judged of thee. Save us all from doing a little of what we know to be wrong in order to gain a little of what we imagine to be right. Bless each member of this group. Turn their thoughts now to thee and to thy Spirit, that they might have wisdom in their decisions, understanding in their judgment, love in their attitude, and mercy in their dealings. Bless them throughout the activities of this day, and these who lead their thinking and those that are responsible for the program. And when the work of this day is over, grant that each one that is here will have merited thy well done, good and faithful servant. For this is our prayer in the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Now, if you will stand, we'll have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In behalf of the Jackson Central Labor Union, I would like to welcome you to Jackson. The delegates, this is your capital city, and we feel like that you should feel like it's you at home. For the guest that's here, we welcome you to the capital city of the state of Mississippi. We hope your stay is a pleasant one. We would like to give you a little information. We have a lot of policemen that's friends of ours, but City Hall's not. Therefore, when you go out at night enjoying yourself, if you happen to run up and get a speeding ticket or something of this nature, if you can't talk that policeman out of it, I doubt if we can get you out of it from City Hall. So we would like for you to have enjoy a stay while you're in the capital city. We feel like that the convention is going to be a fruitful one. We feel like that we have some important people to speak. We've got some things that we've never done before. And without any other comments, I will now turn the podium over to the president of the AFL-CIO, Brother Claude Ramsey. Brother Ramsey.
President Fitzhugh, Reverend Burke, members of the State AFL-CIO Executive Board, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to have all of you back in the capital city again.
to participate in what I think will be a very informative as well as a productive convention. We have the agenda on the tables, I think, which will be followed as closely as possible. There might be a slight deviation on that agenda from time to time, but that is the basic agenda. And a number of things will depend on the amount of time consumed in discussion, what have you, as far as the adjournment of the convention. But if we're successful and stay pretty close to the agenda, we hope to be able to wind up the business of this convention somewhere around noon Wednesday. We've planned a couple of things different this time, and I think I ought to touch on that before I get into my actual remarks. One is we find ourselves within walking distance of both the state capitol and of the governor's mansion. We felt it would be very informative for many of you, while we were this close by the state capitol, as well as the governor's mansion, to take out a few minutes of our time here to allow you an opportunity to visit the state capitol, see where the laws are made, where your tax money is spent, etc. I'm sure that many of you have never had an opportunity to visit the state capitol. Also, we are within a stone's throw of the governor's mansion. Now, the governor's mansion is a historical site, not only as far as Mississippi is concerned, but as far as the nation's concerned. Been several millions of dollars spent on that mansion in recent years to renovate it. We thought it'd be good to arrange a tour of that building also while you're in the capital city. So tomorrow afternoon, as you'll notice on the agenda, you will be afforded an opportunity to visit or make a fast tour of the governor's mansion. Now, I find myself in this type of a predicament here this morning. I've got about a 40-minute speech and about 25 minutes to deliver it in. But I'll do my best to try to hold myself within the time limit. It's now been about 6 months since we had a convention, since we had our COPE convention in this city also. There's been many things happening in our state in that relatively short period of time. And I'd like to review with you a few of the things that's occurred, a few of the accomplishments of the organization, etc. On September the 13th at the Holiday Inn North, we reconvened our state COPE convention, and at that time took a position in regards to certain candidates running for political office in our state. You endorsed a number of candidates for state office, including Cliff Finch, the present governor. Shortly after that convention adjourned, the executive board of this organization and its officers rolled up their sleeves and went to work. And I must say that we received the fullest of cooperation from the entire labor movement in our state. Result of the hard work on the part of all of you, Cliff Finch is now occupying the governor's office. And I don't think there's any question but what organized labor made the difference in this election. Finch won this election by less than a 50,000 vote majority over some real strong and well-financed opposition from the Republican Party. We're not trying to say that the labor movement elected Finch by itself. We are saying that without our help, we don't think he would have made it. That's what we're saying. Now, prior to that convention, the executive board, at least a committee from the executive board, met with Mr. Finch and posed him a couple of questions. He was then the nominee of the Democratic Party, having won the runoff election. We asked Mr. Finch two specific questions, among other questions, but two specific questions. As governor of Mississippi, as a Democratic governor of Mississippi, will you use the powers of your office, the influence of your office, in bringing about a united Democratic Party in our state a party that's open to all citizens, and a party that can win elections. Mr. Finch assured us in no uncertain terms that he would do just that. The other question of significance, of importance at that time, and still today, was, as governor of Mississippi, as the Democratic governor of Mississippi, will you support the nominee of the National Democratic Party, for the President of the United States in this year's election? He said absolutely he would. Well, I can stand here this morning and tell you that the man has delivered already on the first part of that pledge. Now, the labor movement, many of you helped bring this about, and we appreciate that. We held conferences around the state in an effort to educate our members as far as the complicated rules of the Democratic Party was concerned. We urged you to get out and participate in the precinct meetings. And all of that finally came to head over here a couple of weeks ago with the State Democratic Party Convention. And when it was all over with, about midnight that night, when most folks had done left, we had in fact a united Democratic Party for the first time in many years. Now, if Cliff Finch doesn't accomplish anything else in the next 4 years, other than bringing about a united Democratic Party, then I say to you here this morning, frankly and candidly, it will have been worth all of the hard work and the money that the labor movement put in to help elect this man. No question about it. I would remind the delegates present here this morning that it's been a number of years since we had a governor in the governor's office, Democratic governor, that supported the nominees of the Democratic Party for president and vice president. As a matter of fact, it's been as far back as 1956 to be exact. The last time we had a governor in our state to support the nominees of the Democratic Party was when J.P. Coleman occupied the governor's office in 1956. Think about that a little bit. 1956. But the nominee of the party, Adlai Stevenson, didn't win that election. So we have to go further back to 1956 to see when our state last supported and cast its electoral votes for a Democratic president. Do you know how far back it's been? The last Franklin Roosevelt election. I believe that was in 1944. I believe my memory serves me right. That's the last time. 44, wasn't it? That's the last time that the state of Mississippi has voted for the winner in the office of the president. That is the Democratic nominee. Now, we have every reasons to believe here this morning as we assemble, with the leadership that Cliff Finch has already provided in uniting the Democratic Party, that at long last, our state will vote for and support the nominee of the National Democratic Party for President of the United States. And God knows it's about time. I think all of you will agree with that. I have a few words to say about the Model T in the White House before I get through. We got some ideas about that also, and we're going to be talking about that some here during the course of this convention. I appreciate the fact very much that we do have a freshman member of the Mississippi legislature present here this morning, because I want to talk a little bit about our state legislature. A few things that's been happening there since we had that September COPE convention. You see, in addition to working hard to elect some state officials, including the governor and the lieutenant governor, you also work very hard in this area of electing a friendly legislature. And we appreciate that very much. We appreciate that very much. If my information is correct, and I think it's fairly accurate, you also helped support, you helped elect a majority to both the House and the Senate in this last election. We think that's where we are. We know as a matter of fact that we have a majority of friends in the House because we haven't had an innocent roll call vote just last week that indicated to me that we do have a clear majority in the House of Representatives that will vote for legislation beneficial to and for the working people of our state. Next week, perhaps, maybe the latter part of this week, we'll get a better reading on the Senate. But we have had a couple of important roll call votes in the House that we can now judge the House on. And I'd like to talk about that for about a half a minute. The beginning of this legislative session, I wrote all members of the House and the Senate a letter advising them that we had some priority items for this session. I enclosed a copy of our legislative brochure and things of that kind. But I advised these people that it was absolutely necessary that this session of the legislature do something about the benefit amount on unemployment insurance and also workmen's compensation insurance. We talked to the governor about both items and requested, if he could see fit, we thought he could, and his message to the legislature also stressed the need of improving both of these programs. The governor did that. I thought he delivered a magnificent address myself, because most of the things that he talked about were beneficial to the people that you and I represent. Well, I'm happy to report to you here this morning that the House, on March the 2nd, I believe it was, Representative Burke, passed a bill. Committee brought a bill out one day and passed it the next day, I believe it was, raising the maximum benefit amount of unemployment insurance up to $80 a week compared to the present $60 as of July 1 of this year. Still not as high as we think it ought to be, but a $20 increase is much better than what we already have. Now that bill is in the Senate. We'll talk about that a little bit more before we have our session here tomorrow night. Last Thursday, the House also considered the other item, a bill to improve workmen's compensation insurance. This is where we found out how many friends we had. The House Insurance Committee brought out a substitute for House Bill 531 that would basically do the following things. It would improve the weekly benefit amount from the present $63 to $84 as of July of this year. Then that weekly benefit amount would increase by $7 to $91 next July. And with a $7 increase again in 1978, bringing it up to 98, a $7 increase in 79, bringing it up to a total of $105. They also increased the total death benefit amount and what have you up to, I believe it's what, $37,000, I believe the total amount now compared to $21,500. I think I'm correct on that. But the important thing that I want to talk to you about here this morning was, and this is where the crucial vote comes in, when the bill was called up, several amendments were proposed to strike out certain phases of the bill. One amendment was to drop all of the increases over the next several years, peg it at $84. That amendment failed by a substantial majority. Then an amendment was offered that would strike out the last two increases. In other words, the $84 this year, one $7 increase next year, and that would be it. Any increases after that, we'd have to come back into the legislature, get into the fight again to try to make improvements. That amendment was offered by Mr. Butch Lambert from Tupelo. Now, Mr. Lambert just happens to be the personnel director of Rockwell Manufacturing in Tupelo. And it just happens that that plant's not organized. But hopefully, the Industrial Union Department will do something about that in the near future. The thing I'm trying to say to you here this morning is that when Butch Lambert gets on the floor on a piece of legislation like this, anybody who's been around the place very long clearly understands that Butch Lambert is carrying the ball for the Mississippi Manufacturers Association. Thank you. So he offered his amendment. Had quite a debate on that. And we had a roll call vote. And that amendment failed by a vote of 56 to 62. 6-vote majority. Now that to me is an indication that we have a clear majority in the House on legislation beneficial to working people. I think that's about as clear-cut a vote as we've had in this session up to date. I don't know what it means in some other areas, but at least that's as I view the situation. On final passage, the bill passed by a vote of 111 to 6. I'd like now to turn my thoughts for about a half a minute to the upcoming presidential election. Because I don't think that we can leave this capital city and this convention without taking a position, without pledging to do something about the deplorable conditions that we now find ourselves in. You know, it's almost unbelievable, the ordeal that this nation's gone through with, especially in the last 4 years. A nightmare, no question about it, a nightmare. You know, President of the United, to begin with, the Vice President of the United States being forced to resign his office in disgrace. And Richard Nixon, the president at that time, appointing one of his old buddies in the House of Representatives to fill that vacancy, Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford hadn't been in the vice president's office very long until all of the things that went with the so-called Watergate affair began to come to light. Before it was all with, Richard Nixon himself would resign his office in disgrace. So now we have the first unelected president of the United States in the history of this country, the person of Gerald Ford. But you know, he made a statement when he took office, assuring the American people that the nightmare was over. Talking about the nightmare that Richard Nixon and all those crooks he had surrounded himself with in Washington, that nightmare. But I'm telling you, the nightmare for the average American worker, the average retired worker, the poor people of this country, the nightmare is not over. As a matter of fact, the nightmare gets progressively worse each and every day. And it's something to give some serious thought to. You know, and I could go back and tell you, well, if you'd have listened to us, if the people in this country would have listened to us in 1968, we wouldn't have these problems. Well, Richard Nixon was elected. Now he's in exile. You know, and it's a little bit ironic. Richard Nixon got into office. And, you know, this is a long one in itself, and I don't have time to get into all of that, but those of you that were familiar with Richard Nixon's record and how he got into office, elected to the House and the Senate, etc., years ago, can recall that Richard Nixon, when he ran for office, his opponents were branded as Reds, communist sympathizers, and what have you. Well, it's just a little bit ironic to me that this man Richard Nixon, went to China, Communist China, president of this country. Then even now, just recently, now that he's just a citizen, resigned president, has the gall, if you please, to tour the place again. It's ironic, really. If it wasn't so serious, it would be ironic. Be a little bit borders on being funny, but it's a serious business. Before this convention's up or over with, delegates of this convention's going to be called upon. You have a resolution in your kits. It spells out in concise language what we think has to be done. When that resolution's called up, we hope that it'll be passed by a unanimous vote of this convention. Yes, we've had a fairly successful year, past 6 months, but the work's not done. The big ball game is just coming up November the 2nd of this year. One other thing, and I will have completed my remarks for the time being at least. All of these successes we've had cost money. This organization you're a part of has got troubles financially. We're going to be calling upon the delegates of this convention to come up with some more money to help this organization stay alive and do the things that we have to do. You'll be considering a per capita increase at this convention. This will be the first per capita increase that we've come before you and asked for in a number of years. Matter of fact, you have to go back several years. But if we're to continue to make progress in the area of politics that we've been talking about, then it's going to be absolutely necessary that the local unions come up with the necessary funds to help us get the job done. It's been a pleasure to have had this opportunity here this morning. I hope I haven't bored you too much. You will be hearing from me some more before the convention's up. Those remarks, let me say it's been a pleasure, and we do hope you enjoy your convention. Thank you. Trying to stay on time. Got a number of things that I'd like to do before we get too far along. We got a number of guests present. At this time, I'd like to recognize Earl C. Robinson with the Machinists Union. Please stand up. Glad to have you with us, Earl. Ray Smith Art, representative of the rubber workers. Glad to have you here, Ray. J.W. Carpenter, OCAW, representative. Ed Miller with the Laborers Union, international rep. T.T. Odom, Laborers International Union. Glad to have you here, Tim. R.W. Starnes, retired from the AFL-CIO staff. Is Bob here? Where is he? Well, now we have to know that he's able to get out and be with us. Tom McCall, the Aluminum Workers Union. Yes. Ed House of the Machinists Union. Steve Williams with the Machinists Union. Jim Touchstone with the AFL-CIO staff. Where's Jim? There he is. Bob Corley, IUD Department, Washington, D.C. Now, Bob, where's Bob? Stand up there for about a half a minute. Hey, Bob, just stand up. I want him to get a close look at you. Bob Corley is taking over and directing the Industrial Union Department organizing program in Tupelo, and I want everybody to get a good look at him. You know where to go and who to call when you have some people who want to be organized, huh? Mid-Southern states, I stand corrected. G.W. Clark with the United Rubber Workers. Got a strike out here, not too far from here. You folks run out of something to do, go out and help walk the picket line. John Curtis with ILG. Milton Watson, ACWA Southern Education Director. Mr. and Mrs. Jennings Davis. Ruth Young and Peggy Torrance. They're both here. And Eddie Brewer, all ACWA representatives. Herman Midd with the Paperworkers Union in the back. W.L. Franks with the Paperworkers Union. The Secretary of the Paperworkers Union, I should say. Glad to have you, Bill. And Walter Holmes with the Red Cross, American Red Cross. Walter is an old friend of ours. We're happy to have you back, Walter. He's an old friend of ours, a CWA member. I see Brother J.W. Rainey is standing up back there. Might as well recognize him while we're at it. He's a member of the House of Representatives. I don't know, are you a delegate, J.W.? I haven't seen the credentials yet. You're here as a guest. We're always glad to have him. He's a former member of our board, by the way. Yeah, well, we got Nick Zonovich here, but we'll wait because we got him on the program. Do we have anyone now that I haven't introduced yet? Is Aaron Henry, Dr. Aaron Henry showed up here yet this morning. I invited him to come by and spend a few minutes with us yesterday. Has he made it this morning? The chairman of the party? Okay, well, we'll have our introduction to guests. I just wanted to try to get some of those out of the way here this morning. I'm sure that we'll get to some more of you before the day is up. All right, at this time, I'm going to appoint the committees that will serve the convention and also advise those committees as to what resolutions they will be considering. On the Restoration Credentials Committee, and that committee has already done a lot of hard work, otherwise you wouldn't be in here so early this morning. James Jackson, Chairman, Floyd Berry, Amy Hollowell, Ed Lowe, Mavis Rochelle, Ruth Leib, Marinelle Whips, Doris Miller, Arthur Condia, Ralph Miley, and Jeff Rue Steptoe. Sergeant at Arms, L.D. Clark, Eddie McMahon, Frankie Temple, Herbert Williams, Elaine Denley, Dan Ory, and Roscoe Cox, Sergeant at Arms. Audit Committee, Mary Bryant, Jack Schaefer, and Mary Jo Anderson. Constitution and Bylaws, R.L. Tucker, Chairman, Cecil Shelton, Howard Underwood, L. Marie Cooley, E.M. Grantham, Ollie Mae Payne, Dolores Hampton, C.B. Turner, Laverne Tucker, Mary Alexander, Lewis Carter, Joe Frank, S.B. Buck, and Dennis Smith. Resolutions Committee, Russell Kelly, Chairman, W.O. Stanley, Betty Nelson, Wayne White, Arthur Darden, Virginia Dowdy, Sally Adams, Robert Fly, Gilbert Montgomery, Red Grimes, John Cummings, and Charles Arnold. Education Cope Legislative Committee, Curtis Orman, Chairman. Joe Davis, James Moore, Boyd Ivy, Eula Burdette, Ronnie Robinson, Evelyn Scruggs, Coit Gunner, Joe Bass, Helen Avery, Charlie Horn, Ossie Miller, J.J. Rogers, and Doris Miller. Rules Committee, Robert Woodson, Chairman, Marvin Taylor, Louis Turner, Ruth White, and Doris Norris. Now, we got one other committee that we have to appoint, but we're going to withhold announcing the names of that committee until after the nomination of officers. That's the Elections Committee. We do have a committee that we've selected, but if any member of this committee was to be a candidate for office, then they'd have to be stricken from the list. And on this committee, we can't have any two people from the same international union or the same town. But as soon as the nomination is over, we will nominate, or at least name the Elections Committee. So several of you that might be raising questions about, well, I thought I'd be on a committee, you perhaps might be on this one. So just hold it for a little while, and we'll make that announcement when the proper time comes. Now, on the resolutions, give you that bit. Jackson up here, is he ready? Jackson here. Jackson up here. We're going to be ready in just a few minutes. He's going to. Right. We want it. Yeah. All right. This is important for those of you on the committee, on the committees, and also those of you that might want to appear before a committee to make a note on what resolutions the committee is going to be handling. And I should tell you, I think, that we've arranged for a permanent meeting place for all three committees. I should tell you where that's going to be. Constitution and bylaws will be in the Walnut Room right over here. That's Brother R.L. Tucker's committee, Constitution and bylaws. Resolutions Committee will meet in Willer Room number 2, back in that direction in the hotel. Education Cope Legislative Committee will be meeting in Willer Room number 1. It's also in that same area back there. Okay? Now for the resolutions, and the committees will be considering them. Resolutions number 1, 2, and 3 will be handled by the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. Resolutions 1, 2, and 3. Those three involve constitutional changes. Resolutions number 4, 5, and 9 will be handled by the Education, Cope, and Legislative Committee. Resolutions number 4, 5, and 9. The Resolutions Committee will handle resolutions number 6, 7, 8, and 10. 6, 7, 8, and 10. Now, when hopefully this afternoon, if we have good luck, we get adjourned a little early, perhaps on schedule. these committees will be meeting. Now, we have one resolution submitted by the Columbus Central Labor Council that involves the election of officers. Well, I'll make that announcement after I made this one. Brother Woodson would like to meet with the members of the Rules Committee in the Walnut Room right out there, right now. He wants to go over the rules with you, and I assume be ready to make his report here in the next few minutes. Yeah, you folks standing in the back, plenty of seats up front here. Plenty of seats up front. Brother Underwood said to tell you you're not in the church. There's plenty of seats up front. Come on up. How about that? Representative Burke said he thought he was at the Bowling Church. Everybody in his church, he said, tried to come in and sit at the back. Huh? Yeah. Now, as I was about to explain to you, we have one resolution that has to be disposed of by this convention today. That's a resolution submitted by the Columbus Central Labor Council. It'll have to be voted up or down before the day's over. If it's adopted, then it's going to affect the nomination and election of officers tomorrow. So I'm urging the committee to meet early this afternoon. Anybody that's far against that resolution wants to meet with the committee, the chairman will announce when and where they're going to be meeting, and you'll be afforded that opportunity. Yes, sir, Brother Beckham.
Mr. Chairman, there's an interference through the mic someplace. It's real thrilling, and it interferes with the. You hear it?
Yeah.
I wonder if we could.
Brother Knight said the technicians were trying to correct the problem. They're working on it now. I don't think me or Tom Knight needs this thing anyhow. We can pretty well get along without it. All right. Get all my stuff out of the way here. Jim, are you ready for a partial report? Yes, partial. All right. As long as we get a partial, get part of them seated and adopt the rules. Okay, at this time, Brother Jackson advises me that the Credentials Committee is ready for a partial report. At this time, I'm going to recognize Brother James Jackson, the chairman of the Credentials Committee. Brother Jackson.
Thank you, Claude. So far, the Credentials Committee has registered 293 delegates and 54 guests. We have examined the credentials of all the delegates and have found them to be in order, and I move that the delegates be seated so convention business can be handled. Back to the chairman.
Okay, you've heard the committee's report, partial report that is. In effect, that all of the delegates that have been issued badges, 293 of them up to this point, that those delegates be seated. Do we have any discussion on the motion to seat the delegates? All in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Thank you, Brother Jackson. He'll be giving you a more complete report before too much longer. Now, we would like to get the report of the Rules Committee at this point if we could. Would you see if the Rules Committee is ready to bring up the rules yet? them out, because if they change them, they'll have to have them in front of them. Sergeant at Arms is going to pass out the rules that were prepared for consideration by the Rules Committee. And of course, if the Rules Committee comes out with any changes, then we'll simply ask you to pin those changes in. These are the rules that were used at the last convention, prepared in advance for consideration for the Rules Committee, but you'll have them with you, and you'll be able to write in any changes that they come out with. So we're going to take a brief period here and allow them to pass out the rules. You'll have them before you when Brother Woodson gets in to make the report. Ain't here now? Huh? Huh? All right. How about it now? Can you hear in the back now? Can you hear back there okay now? Okay, at this time, I'm going to recognize, the chair's going to recognize Brother Robert Woodson, Chairman of the Rules Committee, for that committee's report.
Thank you, President Ramsey. The Rules Committee have met and recommend the following rules and orders in which the business of this convention should be conducted by. I think all of you were just given a copy of the rules, so I'll read them beginning at number 1. The convention shall be called to order at 9:30 a.m. on Monday and Tuesday and 9 a.m. on Wednesday. The convention shall recess for lunch and reconvene according to program schedule and shall remain in session until the business of the day is completed. Delegates desiring to address the convention on any questions shall announce their name, the organization which they represent, and the number of their local union. If a delegate, while speaking, be called to order, he shall, at request of the chair, take his seat until the question of order is decided. Should 2 or more delegates arise to speak at the same time, the chair shall decide who is entitled to the floor. No delegate shall interrupt another in his remarks except to raise a point of order. A delegate shall not speak more than once on the same subject until all who wish to speak have had an opportunity to do so. Not more than twice, not longer than 5 minutes at a time, without unanimous consent of the convention. At the request of 10 delegates, the mover of a motion shall submit it in writing. A motion shall not be open for discussion until it has been seconded and stated from the chair. A motion to lay on the table shall not be debatable except as limited by Robert's Rules of Order. All resolutions shall bear the signature of the introducer and title of the organization he represents, and shall be submitted in triplicate form, except those submitted to the Secretary of Treasury 30 days before the convention in accordance with Article 4, Section 6 of the Mississippi AFL-CIO Constitution. No motion of resolution shall be voted upon until the mover or the introducer has a chance to speak on it, if he or she so desires. The report of the committees shall be subject to amendments and substitutes from the floor of the convention, the same as other motions and resolutions. When a question is pending before the convention, no motion shall be in order except to recess the convention, to refer for the previous question, to table indefinitely, to table for a specific time, divide or amend, which motion shall have precedence in the order named. Issues may be decided in any parliamentary manner, but a call of the roll is in order when supported by 30% of the delegates present at the time of demand. When a roll call has been taken and all delegates present have had an opportunity to record their votes, the ballot shall be declared closed. When a roll call ballot has been ordered, no adjournment should take place until the results have been announced. It will require 2/3 of the seated delegates to hold a night session. If a night session is held, the assembly hall should be cleared of all delegates by 11 p.m. International representatives shall have the privilege of the floor on any matter of business, governed by the same rules as all other delegates. Robert Rules of Order shall govern all matters not herein provided for. Mr. Chairman, these rules are respectively submitted by the Rules Committee, and we move for their adoption.
You've heard the committee's report, the committee's recommendation to adopt the rules you have before you. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Not all in favor of the motion signified by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Thank you very much, Brother Woodson.
Mr. Chairman, this completes the work of the Rules and Order Committee, and we having no further business, I would like to ask that our committee be dismissed with the thanks of the convention.
Thank you, Brother Woodson. Let me say we appreciate the way you've handled your work. You've got the rules out here and adopted on time. We do appreciate all of this, Brother Woodson, and so I would suggest we give this committee a round of applause for their rapid and expeditiously having completed the work of that committee. Thank you, Brother Woodson. Before I bring on the next speaker, let me say to you that it looks like we're pretty well on schedule. We have a projector set up back there, and we set that up with an understanding we'd show you the film, provided we were on schedule. The governor of Mississippi is scheduled, as you can see on the agenda, to arrive and address the convention right at 11:30. Brother Knight is the next speaker on the program. I don't think Brother Knight needs any introduction to any of you. Brother Knight, of course, is the other full-time officer of this organization. It's been my pleasure to have had the opportunity to work with him over a number of years, and he is a very dedicated individual. And I think this organization is very fortunate to have a person of his caliber working for it. So at this time, it's my pleasure to present to you the Secretary-Treasurer of the State AFL-CIO, Brother Thomas Knight. Brother Knight.
Mr. President, Brother Burks, brothers and sisters, I want to thank you first for the privilege of serving you as your Secretary-Treasurer for a long time. I won't say how long. And I don't want anybody to think, just because I got some gray hair, because there's frost on the roof, that the fire's going out inside. Your state AFL-CIO has been functioning. It's been functioning, we think, rather well. But I must say to you that the financial situation is not the best in the world, because the outgo has far exceeded the income since we met last time. The responsibilities of the organization have far exceeded the revenue. I think that President Ramsey and the executive board, the other board members will verify this, that we have tried to use your dollars as carefully as we possibly could. And one of the unfortunate things is that we have to spend entirely too many hours in a day trying to figure out how we can stretch those few dollars that we have. We haven't been able to spend enough time actually implementing the programs that you have directed. And as has already been said, you will be called upon to take action here in this convention. Action that we think will help alleviate some of those problems. Yes, we have made considerable progress. I realize that this is true with all of us, regardless of what our job in this labor movement is, whether it be a rank-and-file member, whether it be a local union officer, a central body officer, an international union representative, state council officer, or whatever our job may be. Some morning when we wake up, we have to look back to where we were the day before, or the week before, or the month before, or the year before, to tell if we've made any progress. It becomes rather discouraging. And the progress we have made, my friends, has come not because of me, not because of Claude, not because of the executive board or any one individual, any one union, or any one group. It's come because of the cooperation and the support of everybody in this room. Of course, it's the function of the state AFL-CIO to bring us all together, to do the best we can for the working people in this state. I think our success in 1975 was a result of a lot of work over a long period of time. But even with that success last year, which has tremendously changed this state, the air in the Magnolia State even smells better than it did a year ago. But my friends, I hope nobody, don't leave this room this morning or leave this convention with the foolish idea that we've got to the top of the hill and now we can sit down or lay down and take a nap and rest or do just whatever comes natural, you know. We have just started. We've just started. Now, there's one thing that I want to challenge you. Well, I want to challenge you to two or three. There's one thing right at this moment that I want to challenge the delegates and guests here to. And this is something that we failed in. We talk about the progress we made at the polls. But you know, in too many instances, too often we quit. We fail to keep in touch with the people that have been elected to office. And I don't have any particular office in mind. I'm talking about the elected officials. We have failed too many times to keep in touch and to let them know how we feel about the issues, how we feel about the administration of the office that they hold. Too many times, too many of us have called up an elected official or have met them on the street, and we talked to them about something, and one of the most embarrassing things that can happen is if they tell you, you know, you're the first one from the labor movement that said that to me. Now, let's face it, it's a fact. It's a fact. I'm not just talking about the elected state and local officials. I'm talking about the delegation that we've got in Washington, if you can call it a delegation. You and I know that we can almost count on our fingers the times that our congressional delegation from this state has carried the flag for the working people in Washington. Now, you know whose fault that is. That's our fault. That's our fault. We can't quit when we elect people to office. We got to let them know where we stand, what our views are on the things that come before them from day to day. We've got a job to do in 1976. And there's several things we got to do, and we better make up our mind here and now. Right here and right now. One of the things that I want to challenge every human being in this room to do is to work on this problem that we've got, that we've had, we still have, and I guess we'll always have it, of affiliation. At the state level, at the local level. You know, this organization was so structured as to bring us all together within the AFL-CIO at the various levels. There's a function, there's a responsibility for every one of the organizations. And we got a bunch in this state that's riding free. And yet we got the gall and we got the guts to talk about so-called right to work. I challenge every one of you here to meet your responsibility back there where you live. Your local union is paying your part of the freight, or you wouldn't be here. But my friend, we got some riding free. Riding free on the labor movement. If we had the kind of cooperation, the kind of support, the kind of dedication, the commitment to bring about that affiliation that we ought to have, every time you hear one of us talk, you wouldn't have to listen at this business about the fact that we don't have the revenue to do what the job calls for. We're literally crawling and struggling, my friends, to do the job. We're just part of enough of what it takes to do a job. I can't do it. Claude Ramsey can't do it. The executive board can't do it. But all of us together can. All of us together can. How long has it been since you talked to somebody in a local union that's not helping pay the freight? How long has it been since you talked to one? Answer that yourself. Right now. So I challenge you, and I again state to you as simple and as plain as I know how, that we're unable to do the job that's expected of us we get the people involved and until they start helping carry the load. So I asked you again to go back to your town, to your area. You know who they are. See if you can get an invitation to talk to them about the job that the labor movement has to do in self-defense, my friends. If they're not satisfied with that, see if you can get one of us an invitation. Get one of the members of the board an invitation, one of the vice presidents, anybody to talk to them. And if they're interested in their own welfare, they're interested in the bread on their table and the clothes on their back and the welfare of their members in this state and this nation, they'll invite you and they'll listen. Now, there's several other things, my friends, that we got to do. If we do the job that's ahead of us in 1976, and I realize as I talk to this group where we've got this many different international unions, that the different unions have different ways of doing this. They have different names that they call the committees and whatnot. We commonly refer to them as local union COPE committees. Now, if you don't call yours a local union COPE committee, maybe it's a local union citizenship committee, maybe it's a registration committee, or whatever. But my friends, if your local don't have a committee, I'm not talking about central labor unions now, I'm talking about local unions, or lodges, if you please, branches, whatever you call it. If you don't have a committee set up to take voluntary contributions to go among your membership on the job or wherever else you can, whatever the case might be, and collect money, yes, money, voluntary money, the kind that we got to have in this election in 1976. $2, $1, $3, $4, $5. We got some unions that have bought different things, shotguns and what have you, to rifle off. Yeah, you can do that. I don't care how you go about it. You know, we got 90,000 AFL-CIO union members in Mississippi. Have you ever thought about what we could do if we got $2 apiece? There's not a human being under the sound of my voice or in the state of Mississippi that don't just completely throw away $2 in a week's time. Just completely throw it away. I'll take that back. You'll do it in a day's time. Now, you know, with $180,000, we could really get some attention in this state. $180,000. It could be done with all ease, my friends. And I would hate to know just how little we've got. I'd hate to know. 90,000 AFL-CIO union members in Mississippi. And we ought to pick up $180,000 just like that. That we can spend in the election this year. What has your local union done about it? Have you tried? Have you got a local union COPE committee? Have you got the books from National COPE or from your international union? If you hadn't, we got them. You know, just 3 years ago, I mailed some local union COPE dollar books out to some local unions in this state. And I just wish you could have viewed with your own eyes some of the language that was used in penning me a note and telling me what to do with them books and where to go. And it wasn't go down and buy you a hamburger, I hope you have a nice day, you're a good fella. Use some 4-letter words, you know. and told me exactly what to do with them books. Now, that is union leadership in the state of Mississippi. 3 years ago. Now, it hadn't happened in the last 3 years. They didn't send them back, but I'm still not certain whether they used them or not. Yeah, they probably used them, but let me change that. I'm not certain if they used them for the purpose which they were intended. Now, they're not quite as big as the pages in the Sears and Roebuck catalog. I know what you're laughing about. So we have to discount that. But has your local union got a committee? Have you got the books? Have you or do you intend to put up the effort that's got to be put up to get the job done? How many members of your local union and their families, members of their families 18 and older, are registered voters? You know, unregistered voters just don't help us at all. They don't do any good on election day. You simply can't count them. What have you done about that? What's your local COPE committee or your local citizenship committee or whatever you call it done about the unregistered in your local union? You know, we got a potential, if we talk about the membership we got in this state, the husband and the wife and a couple of other members, whether it be sons, daughters, grandpa, grandma, Uncle John or Aunt Samantha or in-laws or outlaws or what have you. We like to think that we got close to 400,000 people. Voters in this state. You know what we could do with 350, 400,000 votes in this state? We can carry it with us in any direction we go, and we're going to go in the direction that's beneficial to the masses of the people, the working people, if you please. But what have we done? What are we doing? And what do we intend to do in 1976? Are we ready beyond that to do a voter education job to follow up the Coke dollar drive, the registration? Are we ready? Are we willing? Have we got what it takes? Are we going to put what it takes together to do the voter education job? Are we going to be discouraged by a few of our folks that have been gotten to by the people on Capitol Street or across the track where they say, are you going to let that bunch tell you who to vote for, how to vote? You know, there's a few of them that thinks that. I wouldn't, if I was you, I wouldn't let them union bosses tell me who to vote for. You know and I know, and we haven't done an effective job yet like we ought to in telling the people that we have never told anybody who to vote for, and we don't plan to tell anybody who to vote for. But it is simply our job, our responsibility to get people registered, to collect money, to support our cause, and to educate the members as to the views, the issues, the positions of the candidates, and let them know what the record is. And that's what scares the very devil out of some of the politicians. They don't want the people to know. I say to you that the challenge this morning, March 22nd, 1976, is greater than it's ever been for you and I to wake up, stand up, and be counted and let everybody know what the facts are. Or are you going to succumb to the rumor mill on the outside of the organization? And then, my friends, are you ready? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to do an effective get out the vote? Get out the vote. You know, all the rest of it is in vain unless you are ready, unless you are prepared to do an effective get out the vote and get them there on election day and get the ballot marked and get it in the box. It's up to you. It's up to you. You'll adopt resolutions. You'll take other action. You'll elect officers here. But I'm saying to you simply, as plain as I know how, that it don't end on Wednesday. Are you ready? Are you willing to go back and kick up a ruckus until you get enough people? We have got to get to the rank and file, my friends. We have got to get to the rank and file. We've got some local unions that are affiliated with the state organization. We've never yet got their mailing list. Yes, we have some unions in this country that says it's in violation of this and in violation of that to give a state organization their mailing list. Well, I say to you that the Chamber of Commerce and the national manufacturers have got the name and address of every cotton-picking member they got. We've got some needs to be updated. It's a tough job to keep the membership list updated where we can send mail to the homes of the people. We've got this problem. We asked your help in that respect. It takes all of these things, my friend, if we're going to do an effective job. All of these things put together. Everybody working together at every level. We're all supposed to be brothers and sisters in the labor movement, regardless of where we live, regardless of what union we belong to. We're supposed to be working together. And I can tell you that the opposition is organized from the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom, from the east to the west, the north to the south. They are organized and they've got money. We got the people. We have got the people. Or we're going to do the necessary things to put our machinery in motion. We don't know at this moment how many congressional contests we'll have in this state. The deadline for people to qualify is April 2nd. We do know that we will have a contest in the southeastern part of the state, in the 5th Congressional District. We don't know if we'll have a primary contest, but it's already evident that we will have a contest this fall. I having come from the 5th District, been born and raised on a bare, lonesome, dusty pea patch down there. I know a little more about that district than any other in the state, I guess. And I want to say this to the people in the 5th District, that there needs to be some improvements down there. The working people don't have any reputation, nor have they had for 50 years or more. And I don't know of a better time to change that than 1976. But let me say this, that whatever is decided by the labor movement down in the 5th Congressional District, and I want this perfectly understood, that me, or President Ramsey, or our executive board is not going to dictate that action. We're going to support the people in the 5th Congressional District. All we ask is that you follow the rules. When you make a decision, if you make a decision, we're going to support you. But we might as well understand one thing, and understand it real good right now. That unless we make up our mind to do these things that I have mentioned here, and do them real good, we might as well not take a position down there, because we're going to get our ears knocked off, we're going to get embarrassed, and we're going to get run over. Now let's decide before we go into it, if we go into it, whether or not we're going to put our best foot forward, and whether or not we're going to do whatever it takes. Now you think about that. And then there's one other thing, my friends. President Ramsey's already mentioned this. But we're in better shape in this state insofar as the Democratic Party is concerned than we've been in a long time. And I want to say myself that Governor Finch is to be commended because he recognized his responsibility in a way that no previous governor has recognized it. He had the guts and the courage to stand up at the state convention and take a position and do his job as he's looked upon to do it. And that hadn't been done before. We're in the best shape that we've been in a long time to do our part come November in helping to remove that garbage out of that White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. The Democratic Party is better off by 3 people than it was a week ago or 10 days ago, because we had 3 to have a press conference here and announce their change to the Republican Party. Well, I submit to you there wasn't Democrats and never have been. And things look better every minute, my friends. And if somehow or other we are lucky enough in the next few weeks that we'll have some more press conferences on the part of a dozen or so in this state and announce their removal to the Republican Party, then we'll be on the road. Yes, I'm a Democrat without prefix. I have been and I'm going to continue to be. And all in the world we've got, my friends, is a continuation of Richard Milhouse Nixon and the Dirty Tricks gang. And I say to you that it's my responsibility and it's your responsibility. And let me say this, that the labor movement in this country has always stood up, has always faced its responsibility. And it has helped move this country out of the dark dungeon of economic chaos and depression and you name it many, many times before. And I say to you that the AFL-CIO in this good country of ours, including the Mississippi AFL-CIO, will rise to the occasion in 1976 and help to elect that leadership that will turn this country around and head it in the right direction and provide a better country in which to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brother Knight. You, if you give him a little time, he'd get it wound up and tell you like it really is. Would you like to stand up and stretch for a minute? Appreciate you coming. Right on the money.
This gal from the teachers come up here. I want to know if it'd be possible to get Bill Powell on that from the teachers on that Cope Legislative Committee. He's been elected their Cope director. So you might just do it without a public announcement or something, whatever you want to do.
Bill Powell?
Yeah, Bill Powell. He's the guy who governors.
Yeah, I know it.
He's from Pastor.
So which one? This one?
Cope Legislative.
Bill Powell.
They're trying to train him. Did I quit on time?
Right on the money. All right.
Boss, don't forget to announce about his dinner.
Yeah.
Anybody gets from
Let me.
Anybody will, and we gotta know it.
We gotta get a little information out of you before we get too much further along. Do we have anyone present who intends to attend the banquet session tomorrow night, or who intends to bring a guest with them that hasn't yet got a ticket for that occasion? Do we have anybody present in that category? It's very important, if you haven't got a ticket, to see Brother Knight before noon and get that ticket, because that's the cutoff date. We got to give them a fairly accurate number on the number of people that will be in attendance at noon today. So if you haven't got your ticket, please do so before 12 o'clock, okay? All right. We have the film set up back there for you, and it looks like we're on schedule, so we're going to show the film. Now let me tell you what the film's about. This film was developed by the Michigan AFL-CIO several years ago. It was developed because many members of that organization didn't fully understand the duties and the functions of the organization, especially as it relates to the enactment of legislation. Some of you have seen the film. A few of you have, but not many. But in view of the fact that we're going to be visiting the state capitol this afternoon, and in view of the fact that you'll be meeting with a number of members of the House and the Senate, at least they'll be attending our session tomorrow night, we felt it would be appropriate to afford you an opportunity to see that film today. So those remarks, I'm going to take the podium off. We're going to turn out the lights and get the film rolling. The governor's supposed to be here right at 11:30. We hope to have this out of the way before he gets here. Okay? Years ago, his name was Gus Schultz. You saw him in the film. He's dead now, but he was a very dear friend of mine and a number of other people in these southern AFL-CIO federations. But the thing that I wanted you to know about is that the president of the Michigan AFL-CIO now, William Marshall, who was the dark-haired gentleman in the film, is a native of Mississippi. Bill Marshall lost his job in that long and bitter strike with Trailway Bus Company here in the city of Jackson. He left Mississippi, went to Michigan, went to work as a bus driver, and was eventually elected as the vice president of the Michigan State AFL-CIO, the day as the president of the organization. And he's been kind enough to let us have that film. We've had it in our possession now for several months. We kept it for this convention because we thought that you'd find it of great interest here today. All right, we're going to take a brief recess, let you stretch a little bit, let these TV folks get set up for the arrival of the governor, okay? He'll be here in a few minutes, we hope. Convention, please come to order. I'd like to ask you all to take your seats. I'd like to ask the sergeant at arms to make sure all the delegates are inside. The governor's here. As soon as everybody gets seated, we'll ask the escort committee, which is comprised of our state executive board, to bring the man in. So bear with us just a half a minute. Would you stick your head outside and tell Brother Knight to bring him on in? We're ready for him. See what he's been doing? He got tied up with our secretaries out there. I know what he's been doing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure at this time to present to you the Honorable Cliff Finch, the Governor of the state of Mississippi. Mr. Cliff Finch.
Thank you, Claude, and it's always good to be with my working Mississippians and my friends. I'm grateful to each person here and for this opportunity to be a part of this important convention. You know, and our campaign was made for the working men and women and the people that have been forgotten in our state. And Claude tells me that this is the representation of the working men and women of Mississippi, and I'm proud of you. I bring to you today two messages. The first is a message of thanks. I'm sure that every Mississippian will join with me in expressing gratitude to the 90,000 members that we have gathered here and that you represent in our state today for your efforts to improve the standard of living of every Mississippian. Under the able and dedicated leadership of truly great Mississippians, as your leaders, Claude Ramsey and Tom Knight, this organization has grown to become the largest organized economic group in our state today. In addition to your work towards making Mississippi a more attractive place for industry, this organization vigorously supported changes that would be beneficial to all the people of our great state. Today I want to urge you to continue your involvement. I want you to continue supporting improvement in our educational system. Continue your efforts to make your government more efficient. Continue working for more equitable tax laws. I want you, as representative of all the working people, to continue to be an active participant in our government and governmental affairs. I want all Mississippians to be involved, to be a part of their government. But I especially want labor, our working men and women, not just organized labor, but all the working men and women of our state. And I want this group to play an increasingly more important role in shaping the destiny of our state. In addition to expressing my gratitude for your support of needed programs, I also want to thank you for the vital role this organization played in the unification or reorganization of our state's Democratic Party. You know as well as I that it is the Democratic Party that has been the party of and for the working men and women of this great nation. The leadership of this organization was instrumental in the joining of the two factions of our party, and for that I will forever be grateful to all of you. But more important, the future generation of Mississippians will benefit greatly from this action. This unity, which we so appropriately attained during our country's bicentennial year, will be the byword of our future progress. The history of Americans' labor movement shows what a group of people with common needs and common goals can do when they join hands and work together. Through a common effort, through collective bargaining, labor has been able to contribute substantially to improving the standard of living for workers all across this country. I believe a similar effort by all of the people of Mississippi would do the same for our state. And I believe that our unified Democratic Party will be a valuable tool in this endeavor. We now have the vehicle to marshal the full potential of our greatest resource, our people, towards making the change we need to get our state off the bottom. It is sad, but indeed true. No matter how much we hate to admit it, but we are 50th on our nation's economic level. However, we don't have to be the 50th in our nation in Mississippi. We have the resources, both natural and human, to be at the least in the top 20 of our nation. Through a unified effort by all of us joining hands and working together for the common good, we can convert this potential greatness into activity. By being involved in making our party a more viable force, you have contributed greatly toward a brighter tomorrow for our state. My second message to you today deals with that tomorrow for Mississippi. I want to give you a brief report of the status of our efforts up to this point in the legislative session. As I said in making my inaugural speech, the foundation of this administration will be a working partnership, a partnership whose only profit stems from improving the welfare of the individual citizens of Mississippi. I am proud to say that this partnership is operative. There is a strong spirit of cooperation between the governor's office and the legislature and among other parts of our government throughout the state of Mississippi. We are working together, and when we say working, I am always quick to point out that we have probably the hardest working legislature in the country. As you know, your state government, like every other one in this nation, started this year with no money available for costly new programs. However, leaders from all branches of government have been working together to make sure that we get the greatest possible benefit from the funds we do have available in our state government today. As a result, the legislature is still considering several measures which, if ultimately passed, will have great impact on improving the everyday lives of the working men and women of our state. I'm especially happy to be able to report that two key parts of your legislative program did pass the House before the deadline last week. The representatives agreed to increase workmen's compensation and unemployment benefits. In these days when the cost of living has risen so sharply, I believe the strong consideration being given these measures show how your legislature is committed to helping the working families of our state. Even though I might say they are not as much as we all would like to have them, and these two benefits increased, they are a step in the right direction. I am also happy to report to you that we are studying the possibility of establishing an industrial relation council by executive order. This council would provide advice, counsel, and assistance to management and to labor to prevent serious disagreements that could reduce the productivity of our workforce. Its primary purpose, however, would be the positive development of better opportunities for our people to obtain more and better jobs in such a way that both labor and management would profit. I am a strong believer in the theory that everyone benefits from the type of good labor climate that develops when proper lines of communications are guaranteed between management and labor. In the days ahead, I will be calling on your leadership for advice concerning this proposal. I am also pleased to be able to tell you that our modest program aimed at creating more and better paying jobs is well underway. We are working not only to bring in new industry, but also to aid the development of homegrown industry and businesses in Mississippi. Both the House and the Senate have already passed bills that would increase the effectiveness of our small business loans. As I said, we are working to create more and better paying jobs for all Mississippians. But I want to make one point very clear today. From now on, when we seek out new industry, cheap labor will not be a selling point in Mississippi. We are going to the marketplace of industry with our positive attractions at the forefront. Why shouldn't we been doing this all along? We have met with several of the nation's top industrialists since January, as I said in the campaign that I would call. From these meetings, we have gained proof that the industries that we need, those that pay high wages and require greater skills, are not looking for, quote, cheap labor. They are looking for productivity. And now they are coming to know that they will find it, that is productivity, in Mississippi because of you, the working people of our state. In closing, I want to assure you that the working people that you represent, will be the center of the attention of this administration. We want our government to be not only responsive to, but also reflective of the working men and women who for too long have been forgotten by our government, both state and nation. Just as our working people are full of love and compassion, our government must likewise be full of love and compassion. Our people are productive, hardworking, and dedicated to helping their fellow man. Our government must likewise be productive, hardworking, and be dedicated to the welfare of all of its citizens. You can play a great role in making sure that your government is responsive and reflective of the character of our people. As governor, I need your help and your advice. As I try to lead the best and make the best governor and best administration of our state's history, I will always need your advice, your help, and your prayers, and I can assure you that you'll always have mine. Thank you, and may God bless each and every one of you.
Governor, I think the delegates' response here is indicative of how they feel here this morning. I want to say that we are deeply grateful for your presence here this morning. And I want to say a couple other things as well, Governor. We've talked about you a little bit before you got here this morning. And in my opening remarks, I said a few things I'd like to hear for you to hear me say, which is the feelings of our people here. We feel here this morning, Governor, that if you don't accomplish anything else in the next 4 years, other than what you just recently accomplished, and bringing about a united Democratic Party in our state, then all of the hard work and effort that the state AFL-CIO put in the campaign has been worth it. Wow, just for that one thing. We want to congratulate you on that, and let's give them another round of applause. Governor, we are looking forward to working with you for the next 4 years. You know, I don't know how many people realize this, but you haven't been in office hardly 3 months yet. You know, that's 3 months. And I'd like to say something else to you also, Governor. I'm aware of the fact that you got some problems out there. I'm aware of the fact that perhaps some people are going to feel left out and didn't get a job they thought they ought to have, and all this kind of stuff. But I want you to know here today, as far as the state AFL-CIO is concerned, the people in this room, we're going to be with you from here on in, friend, because you've done establish the fact that you are the man of the people, and we just tickle to death to have you here today. Thank you very much. Got a few announcements to make before we break for lunch. We're going to have to wait till our escort committee, at least a couple of them, get back because most of our committee chairmen are in that group. I'd like to talk to you about a half a minute while we're waiting for them to get back to make the announcement about this afternoon. How many of you plan on making the trip to the Capitol? Will you hold up your hand? I'd like to get an indication. Well, it looks like I'd say somewhere around about 50% of the people present plan on making the tour. So let's talk about it for about a half a minute. The Capitol, in case some of you didn't notice when you came into the hotel, you go out turn left at the entrance, go half a block, you're on West Street. West Street leads you direct to the Capitol. We're sitting about a block and a half, not over 2 blocks from the Capitol itself. Both houses of the legislature will be convening at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Now, there's not enough seats in the gallery of the House and the Senate to seat the whole delegation. Now, what I'm going to suggest is that as soon as you eat your lunch, head for the Capitol. I'll try to meet you over there somewhere around the front. I'd like to take you in. I'd like to show you a few things on the bottom floor. I'd like to walk up to the second floor with you, show you where the old Supreme Court chamber was, a few of the things that I think you'll be interested there. Then go on up to the 4th floor. The gallery is on the 4th floor. Senate's on that side of the Capitol, the House on this side. We'll fill up the galleries, and the ones that can't get a seat, we'll try to stand you up around the wall. We'd like to have you seated or in position when they rap the gavel and call the 2 houses to order. At that point, the Speaker of the House will recognize you, Buddy Newman, Speaker. On the Senate side, those that would be on the Senate side would be recognized by the Lieutenant Governor who will be here tomorrow. Now, as soon as that is over with, we'd like to ask you to try to get back here and be back in place by 3 o'clock. Okay? We have some important business to take care of. We'd like to have you back here and get started up promptly at 3. All right, Brother Tucker, you have an announcement. Brother Tucker, the chairman of the Constitution and Bylaws Committee, for an announcement. What you call me, Brother Tucker? I started to. That's good enough. Chucker.
The Constitution and Bylaws Committee, we're going to meet immediately upon adjournment for lunch in the Walnut Room, which is just back here on the left. We're going to take up resolution number 2 and number 3, and then we'll take number 1 this afternoon. Anybody that's interested in these number 2 or number 3 resolution, we will give you time to appear before the committee. Thank you.
As soon as you recess?
Right now.
Right now, as soon as we break, Constitution Committee, Walnut Room, right off the lobby here. Brother Kelly, is he here yet? Brother Kelly asked me to announce, Brother Vice President Kelly, that he wants to meet with all of the machinist delegates from the machinist local unions, right after we break in room 407. Room 407 for the machinists. Do we have any other announcements? Brother Woodson has one.
Thank you, Brother Ramsey. I would like to say to the delegates that you might have seen the table out front where we have some products on display that we are giving away. Now, the purpose of this is to help us raise funds to send delegates to the National Randolph Conference in New Orleans in May. We'd appreciate your support. Now, we're going to give away this beautiful 6-quart pressure cooker this afternoon. This pressure cooker was made here in Jackson at the Presto Manufacturing Company, represented by IBEW Local 2262. We have a huge pressure cooker that we're going to give away tomorrow afternoon, and of course, on Wednesday, we have the Butler's Tray Table that was donated by DeSoto, that's represented by Carpenter's Local 3031, and we'd appreciate your support in taking chances on these beautiful union-made products, and it will help us send the largest delegation ever to our national conference in New Orleans in May. Thank you.
What's your tickets?
$1.
$1 a ticket. You buy a dollar.
Marinelle whips.
You're going to give something away every day, right? Going to give a prize away every day. What time are you going to give this one away?
We're going to give it away just at the time you get ready to recess.
Just before we adjourn for today, you'll give that one away, and tomorrow you'll give something else away, right? Do we have any other announcements? If not, we'll stand in recess until 3 o'clock. I'll see you at the Capitol and shortly.
This is side 1B of tape for the afternoon session of the Mississippi AFL-CIO Convention on March the 22nd, starting at 3 p.m. Testing, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the afternoon session. This is the afternoon session, March the 22nd of AFL-CIO Convention.
Will the Sergeant at Arms please tell the delegates to come on inside the hall? We need to get started as soon as we can. Good. I thought you'd enjoy that. Good. Will the convention please come to order? We're going to make a slight change in the agenda. As you note on the agenda, we have convention business at 3 o'clock and Norman Hill, Executive Director of A. Philip Randolph Institute, at 3:30. Norman Hill is here, so we're going to put Norman on as soon as we get a few preliminaries out of the way, and after he finishes his address, then we'll go into the convention business session, okay? Before we bring in our guest speaker, I've got a few folks that we'd like to recognize, a few guests that have rested in since we introduced some this morning. We got with us Vice President of the Bottle Blowers Union, Mr. Willard Cox, who I understand this is his first time to visit Mississippi. Mr. Cox, would you stand up? We're happy to have you here. K.W. Rainey was introduced this morning. Is that W.M. Hebert? Is that correct with iron workers? Is that Hebert or Herbert? How do you pronounce that? Hebert. Hebert. I know now. Is he here? Brother Hebert, Iron Workers Union? Is he here? Anyhow, he has registered with us. We're happy to have him. Delmar James with the Paper Workers Union. Where's Dagwood? Is he still here? He was outside. I saw him. Woody Biggs with ACWA, Director of Organization for that group. There's Woody. Happy to have you here, Woody. Give him a hand. Brother B.C. Emmerich with OCAW, Brother Emmerich, glad to have you here. Charles Anding, I believe, also had checked in with us with the iron workers. Is Brother Anding still here? He's outside. Tell him that we did at least recognize the fact he had checked in with us. We're happy to have him. This time I'm going to recognize the chairman of the Credentials Committee to give us another partial report. There's been a few delegates registered since his report this morning. We'd like for you to know how many we got, because we're going to have a business session a little later. Brother Jackson.
Thank you, Claude. The partial report now reads 300 registered delegates representing 17 state organizations, 119 local unions, and we now have 58 guests registered.
58 guests.
Right. Turn it back to the chairman. You want a motion to seat the additional?
Right.
As chairman of the committee, I move that we seat the additional delegates that's been registered since the partial report this morning, so they'll be able to vote and will be legally seated on any question that may arise before the convention.
Okay, you've heard the motion. That means that we'll be seating 7 additional delegates of those that were seating earlier this morning. We have any discussion on the motion? Any questions? If not, all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Would the Sergeant at Arms tell the Escort Committee to bring in our next speaker, please? Brother Shelton, Chairman of the Escort Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, the next speaker is no stranger to many of you. Been in our state on numerous occasions. It's been my pleasure and privilege to have had the opportunity to work with him over a number of years. He spent a lot of time in our state the last several years in helping us put together a successful political organization which involves restoration of people, developing political education programs, and getting out to vote and doing all of the necessary things that goes with winning an election. We had with us this morning the new governor of our state, Cliff Finch, who had the support of organized labor, who won by a slim majority of less than 50,000. And I think it can be said here this afternoon, had it not been for the coordinated effort, the total effort of the labor movement, which involves the Randolph Institute, which is made up primarily of black labor leaders, where we got together and they went out and helped turn the vote out for the candidates we endorsed, I just don't believe would have made the grade. So it is my pleasure this afternoon to have the opportunity to present to you our good friend Norman Hill, Executive Director of the A. Philip Randolph Institute. Brother Hill.
Thank you very much, Claude. To Claude Ramsey, Tom Knight, delegates to this Mississippi AFL-CIO Convention, I want to share with you some of the basic things that I've been taught by a leadership that I think is the best that America has produced. I'm referring to our own leadership in the Randolph Institute, A. Philip Randolph, who next month will have a birthday making him 87 years young, who's been a trade union leader for over 60 years, who made union history in this country when in 1925 he founded and organized the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. After 12 hard, long years of struggle in 1937, his union became the first union in the history of this country with black leadership to negotiate a contract with a major company, the Pullman Company. And Randolph has a philosophy. He has an approach that I think affects you and me as working people and as trade unionists. And it goes something like this. When we organize a plant or a shop or a work site, we want everybody, all the workers. We don't stop to ask whether he or she is a liberal or a reactionary, what their politics might be, what religion they have. We don't even ask whether the worker believes in Medicare, in Social Security, in open housing, or even the idea of unions. We say simply this: whatever the worker's views are, he or she is entitled to earn a living, to bargain with the boss, and to determine the conditions under which he or she will sell his or her labor. In short, we say all sinners belong in the church, all workers belong in the union. But then we don't stop there. We go on to say something else that we believe is borne out by your own history, by your history in this very state as trade unionists. Whatever our prejudices might be or our hang-ups, and all of us have them, the labor movement, our movement, ought to reflect the best that's in us. And it ought to give us a chance to do things perhaps we've never done before. To cooperate, to experience solidarity, to be fraternally strong, as you were in your most recent elections in this state. Because if we are that kind of movement, then as important as our day-to-day work is, we can begin to lift our sights beyond the workplace, identify with the interests of others, and make a contribution towards solving the problems of the largest society in the country of which we are a part. And really there's a sense in which you should be talking to me this afternoon. Because what you did in your most recent elections, we hope, is an example for the country. In this, the most critical year that all of us face. 1976, a national election year, a year of decision. And I want to talk about basics because if we're going to do anything effectively politically this year, it's going to be done by us and by our movement and by the trade union movement. By a vehicle which for us has been the difference between some measure of protection and security and dignity at the workplace and starvation. A movement that for us doesn't stop when we get through the day's work, but is concerned about our total needs as human beings. That's our movement, the trade union movement. We've had a whole lot of problems. You especially in Mississippi in getting that point across, sometimes to your own fellow workers and brothers and sisters. But I get back again to what Randolph said when he said that even our racial problems, where they still exist, are better solved in a climate and in a country in which the goods and services that we produce as working people are shared fairly by everybody, which everybody has a chance to live decently and not to be worried about where his or her job is coming from or the next paycheck. Because social and political freedom is indeed rooted in economic freedom. And unless we're economically secure, we have no freedom really. And it was out of that belief, a belief that we could only win our freedom out of our own struggle, not waiting for somebody from up on high to give it to us or to hand it to us. Because if that was how we were to get it, those same forces could take it away from us the next day. And so therefore we identified from the very beginning with a movement that was by, with, and for working people, the trade union movement. But then we have another leader in the Randolph Institute. His name is Bayard Rustin, our national president. In 1964, he wrote something called From Protest to Politics. Clearly, he wasn't saying, as a protester, that we ought to stop protesting. Much of what we've won, we've won, sometimes on a picket line, sometimes with a strike, or a boycott, or a sit-in. All the tools, both of the trade union movement and the civil rights movement. But what he was suggesting is that our problems are such, our problems together, that we could only begin to deal with them if we become really political and become politically organized and active. What we win at the bargaining table, sometimes on our strike or on a picket line, can very easily be taken away from us by some elected official. You know it better than I do. Even though we can have now what was not possible not too many years ago in Mississippi, a convention which all of us can eat together, can be in the same meeting place together, that only is good insofar as we're able to afford the restaurant meal or the price of the hotel room. And for anybody, no matter who we may be, black or white, if we don't have the means to enjoy our rights, the rights are not really rights in terms of our day-to-day lives. And so therefore, our problems, yes, there's still racial problems still left, but are mainly national, economic, and social. Because it does us no good to know that there's a law saying everybody has a right to a job, no matter who they might be, if there are no jobs. It doesn't do us any good if we have a house or a good apartment with a no discrimination sign on it, if neither of us can afford the money for the rent, or the down payment, or the mortgage. And so we are at a political crossroads, 1976, a year of decision. It was best said this way at a former AFL-CIO Convention in 1961, when one of the speakers said, there are pitifully few black millionaires and few black employers. Our needs are identical with labor's needs: decent wages, fair working conditions, livable housing, old age security, health and welfare measures, conditions in which families can grow, have education for their children, and respect in the community. That is why blacks support labor's demands and fight laws which curb labor. That is why the labor hater and the labor baiter is virtually always a twin-headed creature, spewing out anti-black epithets from one mouth and anti-labor propaganda from the other mouth. That was said at the 1961 National AFL-CIO Convention by the late Martin Luther King Jr. How then do we put this kind of movement together? What do we do to make it really happen? It's no secret, you know it in terms of your day-to-day lives, that America, this country, is in trouble. Millions are out of work. Public schools find it very difficult to get money. Housing is not being built for anyone, let alone the poor. And no one, much less the present national leadership, seems to have the will to even begin to resolve these problems. We've come a ways. We've seen all kinds of gimmicks used against us. We were told in the 60s that there was to be a war on poverty. And some good came out of that war on poverty. But one basic and important thing was left out. Maybe you know a shortcut or another way, but I've never known anyone to get out of poverty without getting more money. And to us that means for those who can or are able to work to have decent jobs, a good pay that goes somewhere. For those who are too old, too sick, or too young, or too crippled to work, It means a decent income maintenance program so that they can live decently. And those were the things that were left out of the war on poverty in 1960. And as a result, there were situation after situation where the have-littles and the have-nots were fighting each other over an all too small a pie. And then there were some within our own ranks who said that we could go a separate way. We could all go an all-black way. And what that really meant was to be satisfied with poverty and with all the problems of ghetto living. And that was rejected by the masses of black people themselves. And so then we come now to the 1970s. And we were told something else. We were told that the way up and out was for more people to become business people. We're not against that in principle. But I want to ask you, in a country and an economy in which more and more power is concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer large multinational companies and corporations, how can a small business person, given a government loan, compete effectively in that kind of climate? In a climate where more and more of your jobs are being exported overseas, along with the money and the know-how that you have put together as working people, how can that be the salvation for masses of working people? And so all these things, all the gimmicks, we've had to reject. These gimmicks in part have come from a national leadership that has failed to be sensitive to the needs of working people, failed to be sensitive to your needs and my needs. You know, they say about the man in the White House that he's decent and apparently honest. But a curious thing happens. Every so often, there's a meeting in the White House, sometimes with trade union leadership, sometimes with minority leadership, in which he listens, promises to consider everything that's been said, and then nothing, absolutely nothing happens. No, it finally has brought some of us to the conclusion that although many of us have struggled over the years to get that regular paycheck so we could have at least a Ford in the garage, to have one in the White House is much too much. And so we're faced with a situation about who do we turn to now? Some people have said we turn to the so-called beautiful people. But I read something by one of them, Paul Newman, a well-known actor, movie star. He was asked why he made a movie a few years back that was anti-union. And his response was, sure, I'm anti-union. I'm anti-big. Or maybe in Washington, D.C. these days, that would go along fine. That would be called by some people around the White House an even-handed policy. But for us, that's a disaster. It's a disaster for working people, for poor people, and for minorities. And so therefore, what we're really suggesting is that we fall back on the two basic allies we have, as you did in your last elections. One is that group of people whose voting record has been the most solid of any group for labor-backed candidates anywhere in the country that we've been. And that's minorities and especially black people. And I want to say a special word to minority trade unions, because we're going to ask you to be doing things this year perhaps as you've never done before, because our bread and butter is on the line as it's never been before. What we're going to be asking you to do is this, is to begin to participate as never before in your communities, in your neighborhoods, among your friends and neighbors, whether they're union members or not, and to show them by your example that you don't have to be rich to be effective, to have a voice, to have a say in what happens politically. To help us do something about that miserable turnout we had nationally in 1974, where less than half of the American people voted and only 1 out of every 3 blacks went to the polls. We're going to be asking you to be standing up as never before among your neighbors and friends against those who play politics just to fatten their own personal pocketbooks come election day. Those who are looking for that personal handout that'll make them look good at the expense of the rest of their friends and neighbors in the community. We're going to be asking you to stand up to those kinds of folks, even though they may live, in some cases, right next door to you. We're going to be asking you to tell our story, the trade union story, because it's a story that we can tell with pride. Because if we've got the union card, we earn 50% more than that worker who doesn't have it. We're going to be asking you to be saying to your friends and neighbors, we want to judge all candidates. We welcome the fact that more and more minorities and women are running for it and getting elected to office right here in this state. But we're going to be judging all candidates, whether they're male, female, young, old, black, or white, by one basic criterion. Are they prepared to stand up and fight for what's good for us as working people, poor people, and minorities together? And then we're going to be asking you to do one other thing in 1976, and that's to help bring together, as never before, these two great movements, the movement for justice for working people, the trade union movement, and the movement for justice for minorities, the civil rights movement. And then if we do that, there's one other thing that all of us ought to keep in mind. We know from our own experience that when we get divided, there's only one winner. That's the boss. We workers lose under those circumstances. So we're asking all of you, therefore, to remain committed to a trade union movement that's open to all, that invites all to be a part of it, that stays together in a solid way as never before. We're going to be asking all of you to relate to a special kind of politics, a politics of solidarity, a politics of struggle, a politics that recognizes the real issues and not the phony issues. They'll be talking about big government, our opponents. But our opponents are very, very curious. They raise the issue of big government every time something is talked about that may help working people, poor people, and minorities. Government is too big if it guarantees everybody, regardless of income, the right to health care. Government is too big if it begins to promote and encourage full employment. Government is too big if it encourages the building of decent housing at cost that everybody can afford. Government is too big if it begins to ensure quality education for everybody's children. Government is not too big, however, our opponents say, if the 24 millionaires who paid not a single penny to Uncle Sam in taxes keep getting away with doing that. Government is not too big from their point of view if the 8 companies, the 8 large corporations, continue to pay not a single penny in federal income corporate taxes. Let's call their names off, because we ought to know who they are. Ford Motor Company, Lockheed Aircraft Corporation, Honeywell, United States Industries, American Airlines, Eastern Airlines, American Electric Power Company, Allstate Insurance Company. These 8, I repeat, paid not a single penny in federal income corporate taxes. But government is not too big if that's the case, according to our opponents. And so what we really need, it seems to me as never before, is yes, an effective Congress, but more importantly, somebody in the White House who's sensitive and committed to the needs of the masses of American people. I'm talking about you and me, I'm talking about working people, I'm talking about poor people, I'm talking about minorities. That's what our program is all about. It's a program that can make this country what it ought to be, a country which is racial equality, economic justice, and social democracy for all Americans. That's a winning program in 76. It's our program, it's a trade union program. And that's why, in the words of the old trade union song, especially in 1976, I'm sticking to the union. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Norman. I'm sure the delegates listen very closely to those rather candid remarks. A lot of meaning what Norman Hill said, and I couldn't agree with him any more. We're at the crossroads this year, and if we are to get out of the quagmire that the Nixon-Ford administration got us in, it has to be done. And November 1972, it's going to take all of us together to get that job done. That's what Norman Hill's talking about. We'll be talking about that situation a little bit later. Norman, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. We hope you can stay around and visit with us some. We'll have a business session starting out in a few minutes. We'll try to wind up about noon Wednesday, but we do hope you'll be able to stay around and visit with us a little bit. Norman Hill lives on an airplane, in case some of you want to know where he lives. He lives on an airplane, especially jumping on and off airplanes. I know because I've been putting him on them and picking him up and all that kind of stuff for a number of years. You know, we talk about some of us think we've got a tough job in the labor movement. I just don't see how this young man does it. Just don't know how he does it, because he covers the entire United States. And I'm most grateful, Norman, considering the magnitude of your job, the fact that you've been able to take off enough time, come down and spend a few hours with us in the state of Mississippi. We've been talking this morning. We wish you could have been here to heard the governor's speech. We were talking this morning about the progress we've made. And I couldn't let you leave here without saying that all the hard work that you've put into Mississippi, all the money that you've helped raise to get into Mississippi, this was a payoff this time around. And Norman Hill deserves a certain amount of credit for that victory also. We appreciate it, old buddy. Okay, is the chairman of the Constitution Bylaws Committee ready to bring us a partial report of the Tucker? That's the best looking escort committee we had yet. Now, they always wind up leaving me up here by myself when we get on to the real crucial point in this thing. Ronnie, did you get your message? What do you think that, I hope? Okay. Chair recognizes Brother R.L. Tucker, the chairman of the Constitution Bylaws Committee.
Thank you, Brother Ramsey. We're ready to report on two of the resolutions that was assigned to the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. I made this announcement just before we adjourned for lunch. We did have a couple of the committee that did not show up. I don't know if they missed the announcement or what. Resolution number 2, which is a clarification of the Constitution, introducing resolutions. Number 2, yeah. Do you want me to read it? This resolution is dealing with the constitutional change of Article 12, Section 2. Whereas the Mississippi AFL-CIO is chartered by the National AFL-CIO and is subject to the rules and regulations of the parent organization, all constitutional changes of the Mississippi AFL-CIO must be approved by President Meany's office before they can be implemented. And whereas in 1974 at the 7th Biennial Convention, several constitutional amendments were adopted which have been drafted and submitted by the Constitution and Bylaws Committee. These amendments were submitted to the committee under authority of the last sentence in Section 2 of Article 12 of the Mississippi AFL-CIO Constitution. None of the amendments were submitted to the affiliated organization as outlined elsewhere in Article 12, and were rejected by President Meany's office. Because of this fact, and whereas President Meany's office further advised the officers of the Mississippi AFL-CIO that the last sentence, Section 2 of Article 12, was actually in violation of the National AFL-CIO rules governing state and local central bodies. Now therefore be it resolved that the last sentence in Section 2 of Article 12 be eliminated from the Constitution in order for us to be in compliance with the rules of the parent organization. Your committee concurs with this resolution, and with this goes a motion for approval of this resolution.
You've heard the committee's recommendation and the motion to concur in resolution number 2. Do we have any discussion on the motion? You ready for the vote? All in favor of the committee's recommendation to adopt resolution number 2 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Brother Tucker.
We also took up resolution number 3. There again dealing with a constitutional change which was submitted by the Columbus and Vicinity Central Labor Union. Whereas the labor movement in Mississippi has experienced considerable growth over recent years, this growth has resulted with an increased number of international unions having members affiliated with the Mississippi AFL-CIO, and whereas the General Executive Board of the Mississippi AFL-CIO needs to be as representative of all the various affiliated unions as possible. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Article 5 be amended to read as follows. Section 3. No 2 vice presidents shall come from the same Central Labor Union district, and not more than 1 vice president, nor more than 1 member of the Executive Board shall be members of the same national or international union. Section 4. Each officer and member of the General Executive Board at the time of his or her election shall be a delegate to the convention, period. He or she shall at the time of his or her election be a member of a local union affiliated with the Mississippi AFL-CIO, and a state AFL-CIO chartered affiliated central body for the time specified in Article 3. Section 2. And the local union shall maintain its membership in both organizations during the term of office. His or her principal occupation or field of union activity shall be within the state of Mississippi during the term of office. Failure to comply with these requirements shall cause the executive committee to declare his or her position vacant. We invited anybody that was interested in this resolution to meet with us, and we did have, I believe, 7 people come in and express their views on this resolution. After lengthy debate with the committee, we non-concur in this resolution, almost a majority. I'm almost 100% unanimous. We had 1 dissenting vote on this resolution. So the report of the committee is that we non-concur, and with a motion to approve the committee's report.
You've heard the committee's report, recommendation not to concur in resolution number 3. Do we have a discussion on this motion? You ready for the vote? Brother Bankham? Brother Beckham wishes to be recognized. State your name, local, for the record, Brother Beckham.
E.G. Beckham, business agent, IBEW Local 1435, Jackson, Mississippi. Mr. Chairman, fellow delegates, I rise to discuss 2 questions here. There is no place in the Constitution of the AFL-CIO state organization that says that any international union has to have 1 vice president or 2 board members. You will find that no place in the Mississippi AFL-CIO Constitution. Any delegate that has been seated by the Committee on Credentials is entitled to run for any office that he or she desires. So therefore, I think Section 3 should not be adopted. Section 4, in my opinion, and what I know about the AFL-CIO National Constitution, would be unconstitutional for this reason. There are a number of international unions that has refused to give state officers of state bodies and central bodies names of their local unions where they are located and number of members that they have in various states. The international union that has chartered the local union that I'm a member of does not make it mandatory along with other local unions. There are some international unions that does, but the majority of them does not make it mandatory for a local union to affiliate with a central body or a state body. They recommend it, but it's not mandatory. If it was, we would have a few more local unions sitting here out of the IBEW than we have today. In my opinion, it's just a way that to get in a resolution to the National Convention of the AFL-CIO to make it mandatory for these local unions to affiliate with both central and state. In the early days, the early birth of this organization, the Mississippi AFL-CIO, along with our sister state, which is not a right-to-work state, Louisiana, when Ray Bryant, as president of this organization, and Vic Busey, the president of the Louisiana State AFL-CIO, they introduced jointly a resolution in the National AFL-CIO Convention to make it mandatory that each international union make it mandatory for its local unions in each state to affiliate with the state body. That was voted down. So in my opinion, Section 4 would be unconstitutional. Thank you.
Brother Beckham, I take it you're in favor of the committee's recommendation not to concur?
I'm in favor of the committee's report.
Okay. All right. Any other delegate wishing to have the floor at this time? State your name and organization you represent for the record, please.
Sir, my name is Ray Magallanes of Harrison County, American Federation of Teachers, Local 3261. I've been before you before. You all know my feelings, I think, because as a member of the AFT, a prior member of another organization, I thought the greatest thing that could happen to teachers in the state of Mississippi was to become affiliated with the AFL-CIO. I still believe that. AFT is a new organization, as you well know. We just recently became a state federation. Betty Nelson, sitting up here, of course, is our representative president here. You know, it kind of hurts me to know that I belong to a minority group. I know how other minorities feel about it, but we are a minority group as far as this resolution is concerned. And I don't think that, I think a lot of other organizations here that feel the same way as I do. Now, like I said before, I'm not here to dictate policy to the people on whose apron strings I'm running with in order to get some of the things that I think we deserve in the American Federation of Teachers for teachers in this state. The thing that concerns me right now is maybe we don't really need this resolution. What appears to me the possibility could be actually here that would require us to expand the membership of the number of vice presidents and possibly expand the membership of the Executive Council, because I, as a teacher in this state, belonging to one of the minor organizations, I can't help but think that I sure like to have a voice somewhere at the state level to say, hey, give us a break in here too. We do recognize the fact that we are a smaller organization, and I'm sure the other organizations here feel the same way. Yes, sir. I kind of envy the gentleman who preceded me, because obviously he's done his homework. This type of organization is really new to me at the state and national levels, this type of thing. And I can't help but think, though, that I heard of one of the people who came in and presented their discussion at the committee, and he apparently had done his homework, in which he stated that something like 40 or 60% of the membership of the AFL-CIO at the state level is constituted by about 40% is represented by 40% of the board. Now, that in itself, of course, is an inequity. We all have to recognize this. But I think it'd be really fine if some of these smaller organizations had the opportunity to say, hey, hear from us a little bit. We've got something to offer, and we'd like to have a little input. And this is what I'm asking for. I don't say that I'm in objection to the resolution as it's read, or as it's presently here. I can't help but think that possibly we could accept or consider a resolution that would expand the membership of our vice presidency, and also the membership of our executive council to a few more members. And then maybe we could get together as smaller organizations to get a voice in there. And I rest my case.
Brother Perry.
I'm M.L. Perry, Local 792, Jackson, Mississippi. I'm speaking in favor of this motion, and I think the majority of the people here, if they would take the facts and the figures, would pass this resolution this afternoon over the committee's objection. I have before me a list of the membership in the state of Mississippi, which includes 50 international unions with 43,600 members. At the present time, 4 international unions with 16,722 members has 60% of the board members. 26,878 members in the state of Mississippi. The remainder of 46 locals has 40%. This is not a 50% ratio, and I feel that the smaller local unions in the state of Mississippi are being denied their equal representation on the board of the Mississippi AFL-CIO, and I'd like for the delegates to override the committee's vote on this resolution.
Chair recognizes Brother Joe Davis.
Joe Davis, Mississippi Electrical Workers. I'd like to bring out a few facts that the brother before me failed to bring out. We have a board member, active board member, that has less than 200 members, or just a few over 200 members of his international in the state of Mississippi. We have a board member that's got just a little over 500 members in the state of Mississippi that was elected by the people at the convention 2 years ago. What we're saying is anybody that wants to run, just like the brother earlier said, any delegate is entitled to run. And I think this proves that you can be elected if you're a politician. If you mess up and get beat, you know, there's no use coming up crying about it the next convention, trying to cut it out. I'll move the question.
Well, you said you made a little talk there and then moved the question. I don't know exactly what you meant by that, but if somebody ready for the previous question, we can accept that motion. If you're ready to vote, we'll go ahead and vote. We don't, it's a democratic organization, we want to make sure everybody has opportunity to have his or her say. I think perhaps before we put the vote, let me say this to you. those of you that have sponsored the resolution. I understand what you're talking about. What you're really talking about is trying to get an executive board where you've got more organizations that have representation on it, and that perhaps do a more effective job at the central body level. I appreciate your thinking on that. The answer to many of our problems in dealing in this area, really, is some additional revenue. Nobody recognizes any more than I do the need to perhaps enlarge our executive board. If we could add a couple of vice presidents at large, that would make room for a couple of more seats on the board, and then I think perhaps some of the things that some of you have in mind might be accomplished. But the problem centers around the fact that we just don't have the revenue to think about enlarging the board at this time. If you adopt a resolution to increase the per capita income by a nickel, member a month, and if our revenue builds up to such a point, you have my assurance that the executive board itself will try to bring before the next convention a resolution to accomplish some of the things that you have in mind. But bear in mind, it's a monetary problem with us. You'd be surprised the fact that we have to examine just about everything we get into as to what it's going to cost, you know. And we've had a lot of success. But this inflationary thing that's eating up the paychecks of everybody is also eating us up. You know, it costs us about $1,000, for instance, to have a board meeting. We can't afford at this time to enlarge the board, as bad as all of us would like to. But, you know, we're all cognizant of the problem, and we want to see this organization as much represented as possible to do a more effective job. Anybody else want the floor?
With the Aluminum Workers Local 245. I would like to speak in opposition of this resolution, basically on Section 4, where that you would have to be a member of a central labor body before you could become an officer of the union. I feel like that we've got delegates here, we pay per capita, and just because some oddball member in our local union won't let us become a member of our central labor body, we still should have a voice on the executive board. Therefore, I'm in opposition.
You in favor of the committee's report? Yes. Okay, you ready for the question? The motion before the House is to non-concur in resolution number 3. You ready for the question? All in favor of the motion of non-concurrence on resolution number 3 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The opinion of the chair, the motion's carried. Is a division of the House requested?
Division of the House.
You want a division of the House? The motion carried, which is your point of view. I ruled that the motion had carried. Now, I didn't rule against you. Now, if the opposition, the people that oppose the motion wants the division, there's the people, I think, that would want the division, not the people that's won the issue. No division? Okay. All right, Brother Tucker, that completes your partial report. All right, Brother Tucker wants to make an announcement now.
This will probably be about the last time you'll see me up here after we get through with this one. We've got one more resolution that this committee has got to consider, and we're going to meet at 4 o'clock when the convention recesses. We're going to meet back in the Walnut Room to take up the per capita tax. And then this will take care of our business. Thank you.
4 o'clock, the Constitution Bylaws Committee, when we recess, adjourn for the day, the Walnut Room right over there. Constitution and Bylaws Committee. Now, don't leave. We got a few announcements to make. Chair recognizes Brother W.O. Stanley back there.
Mr. Chairman, immediately upon recess of today's session, I'd like to meet in the very back of the convention hall with the members of the Communications Workers of America.
You got 2 or 3. CWA, all CWA delegates?
All CWA delegates
in the back of the hall
immediately upon recess of today's session.
Okay, CWA delegates in the back of the hall. Brother Jackson?
Brother Ramsey, I'd like to request the front corner of the hall for the ACWA, just on the adjournment of the convention.
ACWA delegates caucus in the front of the hall right after we adjourn for the day. Any other announcements?
Mr. President, I would like to ask all IUE delegates and Columbus Central Labor to meet in room 1112 at 5 p.m. this afternoon.
At what room number?
1112.
1112, 1112, all IUE delegates?
Right.
All IUE delegates in room 112, 112 at 5 o'clock?
5 o'clock.
5
And
o'clock.
Columbus Central Labor Group 2, please.
Columbus Central Labor Group Willem.
Right.
Okay. What about the United Rubber Workers? Somebody handed me a note here. You want me to make that announcement? You're going to make it. All right. Been requested to announce that all rubber worker delegates will meet in the Walnut Room at 5 o'clock today. You reckon you ought to meet there or someplace else? That's where the Constitution Bylaws Committee is going to be meeting, and they might run into that time with you. Think you'll be through in time? Okay, 5 o'clock in the Walnut Room. Hopefully the Constitution Bylaws Committee will be through. Machinists, what about the machinists? I was asked to make an announcement for the machinists. Whereabouts is that group going to meet? Kelly? Have you done had your caucus, or you want to have it? You want to know?
The machinists done had that meeting, but the
You done had yours, huh?
Yes, but I'd like for the resolution committee to meet in Willow Room number 2 at 4:30.
The which now?
The resolution committee to meet at 4:30.
You want a meeting of the Resolutions Committee in Willow Room, what's that, number 2?
Number 2.
That's back this corner. Resolutions Committee at 4:30. And that's an important committee also. We had hoped that all the committees could get their meetings, get their reports ready for tomorrow. We'd like to get as much business completed tomorrow if we can, in order we can get out early Wednesday if possible. Any other announcements? Shall I recognize Brother Knight?
Brother Orman has asked me to announce that the Cope Legislative and Education Committee will meet immediately on adjournment in Willow Room number 1. He also invites those people who may want to speak for or against the resolutions that he has in his committee. Now, I know there's some members of this committee that's going to be in some caucuses here, so I assume that he wants you to come on after you get out of your caucus. That's the Cope Education and Legislative Committee in Willow Room 1, just as soon as you can get there. The AFL-Randolph Institute is having a meeting at 7 p.m. in the Walnut Room over here. That's the AFL-Randolph Institute at 7 p.m. All black delegates. One other thing now that we had been planned this afternoon, but it obviously can't be done. Brother Jim Sala, the regional director of the AFL-CIO, would like to see all of the Central Labor Council officers in attendance here. That's all of the Central Labor Council officers. Tomorrow afternoon, as soon as you get through voting, and of course we got the tour to the governor's mansion, but we got to do more than one thing at one time, I guess. Anyhow, he'd like to see the central body officers tomorrow afternoon, immediately after you have voted, in the Walnut Room, right over here. The central body officers. Got too many other things going on, Fitz, that stacked on top of each other now.
All right. I was asked earlier in the day to add Mr. Bill Powell's name to the Education Cope Legislative Committee, so Brother Powell has now been assigned to that committee. That's the Education Cope Legislative Committee, chaired by Brother Curtis Orman. They're meeting in what, Willow Room number 1 at what time? After adjournment, Willow Room number 1. We have any other announcements? Not, I'm going to recognize Sister Marinelle Whips,
Maybe she might want to talk to you a little bit. They've been selling chances out there on several different items. Seem to be rather attractive. This time we're going to recognize her. I understand she's going to, you're going to have a drawing or something this afternoon, Marinelle? Okay. Every day. All right, tell them about it.
Norman Hill just finished speaking, and as the representative of AFL at Randolph Institute, we're trying to raise some funds to send delegates to the national conference in May to New Orleans, also to help with the treasure on voter registration and education. So if you have not taken a chance on this particular product, you can still get one. We will be giving away a different item each day. Tomorrow we will give away our 21-quart canner, which this is donated by the Presto Manufacturing Company to the AFL at Randolph Institute. And it's a table out there also that was donated by MPI to the AFL at Randolph Institute. And so will you please cooperate us and help us in our efforts to raise funds. Now we're going to ask someone if they will come up and do the drawing for the 6-quart pressure cooker. Who want to volunteer? Joe Bass. Okay. I have another announcement. After the meeting this afternoon of the Mississippi AFL of Randolph and all the black delegates, we're going to have a BYOB hospitality in room 1403. And if you don't know what that's saying, that's saying for Xbox what's over there.
Very good, very good. Do we have any other announcements now before we adjourn for the day? If not, this convention will stand adjourned until 9:30 in the morning.